Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you like that. Hope you like that new intro. I thought I'd mix it up a little bit. Now let me know what you think about it. I'm afraid it might be a little too long, but I like it. But if you have any opinions on it, feel free to share while you're down there clicking like on the video for other reasons because you love being here and following the further adventures of Knut Holgersson. And the last place we were when we left off, we were in the bottom of the depths of the sunken blight, where Ranveig had led them, and they've just discovered a room that has stones with runic records etched on them, small, short sentences, but just enough to denote certain days or important events. And she found an area where they were talking about treaties and landmarks in the traditional, the original sense of landmarks, as in those things that mark off whose land is who. Uh, she set Canute to read more of these stones, and they're stones, about like that, that had been mortared together at this age. The mortar's pretty dry and loose, especially since everything's kind of been frozen. Um, now the question is the record that she's looking for there? My story instinct tells me that the record is there, but I'm not sure if the I'm gonna play it to find out, to discover, but I don't know if the record that she finds is actually going to side with the Jarl, or if it's going to side with Springtide. Right. So, um, I'm going to say that it's because the story and because the guidance of the spirits that led her here, I'm going to say that it's very likely that some record is here. Okay, I need to roll percentage dice. Okay, 24. So it is here. To have him do a gather information check, and if he gets like a weak hit, then it might take. I guess I probably should have just had them do that to begin with. Gather information, and that will be, yeah, wits. Mm. Hmm. All right, so that with the wits of +2, that gives us a miss with a match. I'm going to take a peek at his assets. His momentum is only 5, so he can't do anything with that. Take a look over at his assets. Let's see if cited. When you face danger and gather information to identify or detect mystic forces. Yes, he's not really detecting mystic forces, so so I'm going to say that well, I'm not really sure what that's going to mean. Let's see. On a miss, your investigation unearths a dire threat or reveals an unwelcome truth that undermines your quest. Okay. Well, I'm going to say that it definitely means that what what they come across, what Canute finally finds, is not going to help them. So as Canute is digging through, they've because it is, even though there's light filtering in from various holes in the cavern, it's darker back here because it's more the rock is thicker, and because they're trying to read these ancient runes, he's lit torches. They've lit some torches. He found a, something that will kind of stay on fire a little bit in the center, but it's not providing much heat or warmth. But they've got the their torches, and he's looking. No, 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 no. Ah, Olgensvarn, son of Spargisen, had 3 children. Olgensvarn's wife says they're not his. Olgensvarn slew the father. These are some very interesting records. And he goes and goes and, oh, what did you say that name of the plant was? And as soon as he says that, Ranveig comes over and says it was I can't remember what we called it, but the dye flower. It's the dye flower, and she's reading it. They're both reading this one, and she says, uh, "Yes, Spring Vale is what springtide used to be called. Uh, Years ago, this is it. Oh no." This says that it's actually Odensborg who owes springtide flowers. Oh, that's why they started growing these flowers. They had a patch of land, and the agreement was that Odensborg would deliver a measure of these flowers to springtide every year. And everyone must have forgotten. Uh, the springtide may have forgotten. Odensborg may have just ignored it. Don't you speak so basely about the Jarl. You'll regret it, Knut Holgersson. I'm just here to ask. Yes, yes, I know. You're here to ask me questions about the meaning of the universe and Gnungagap. Do that later. Should we get the rock? Let's see. She is her character description is cruel, and she's definitely working for the Jarl. She's there trying to prove that Springtide owes the Jarl. So I'm going to say that I'm going to say there's a chance that um, she's going to ignore it. She's going to ignore it. Um, I'll say 50-50. She's just going to ignore it, pretend that they never found it. 51 or higher. She wants to leave it and ignore it. And 95. All right, so she's in full-on denial for Team Jarl. So Knut asks, this looks like it's Odensborg that owes Springtide those flowers. That's how I read it anyway. That's what it would sound like to an uneducated oaf. So why don't you leave me with the investigating, and I will leave with the slashing and slaughtering. But it says right there, you don't have to be some investigator. It says, I know what it says. You said that was the old name. I know what I said too. And if you want my help, then you will ignore that you saw that, and we're going to go back and we're going to tell them that they owe Odensborg because that is what the Jarl wants. You want me to lie upon my word? For flowers for a Jarl? You said you are his man. We are friends, but that does not mean I'm going to go and lie for him. Would you go and attack Springtide if he ordered it? Well, I don't know. Well, good, because he might ask you after you tell him, oh yes, by the way, Jarl, oh, sorry, but you're the one that owes Springtide the flowers, not the other way around. He does not like to be thwarted. as you will find, as you probably already know, if you spent so much time in his hall. Well, he is definitely implacable when it comes to the things he wants. Yes, implacable is a good word. You know what another word is? Ruthless. Ruthless to his friends and his foes alike. He is the leader of Odensburg, without question. Now, if you want my help, we're going to go and we're going to find a different way. We need those flowers for the Jarl so that they can start their dyeing. It is getting close to the trade season, and if we don't start, then Jarl Bodvar is not going to be happy. All right. Well, I'm just going to follow you. I will leave the crafty lies to come from your tongue. Way to stick by your convictions. Knut just waves her off, and turns to go. And as he turns to go, the 88, the match from that roll, is now going to come into play. Use our pay the price table. 69. 69. It is stressful. Okay. So Knut, even though he's not some crusader or anything like that, he holds his honor pretty dear, and even just considering the lying for the sake of the Jarl, lying to the people of Springtide, putting them at a negative disadvantage, I'm gonna call that -2. He's going to endure stress, so he's going to take 2 for that challenge of his honor, and endure stress. All right, so that's either spirit or heart, whichever one is higher. Okay, well, that's spirit at least. So, gotta watch those sibilants. Those of us blessed with big gaps between our front teeth, gotta watch them whistles, sonny. Okay. So that's a weak hit. Presses on. All right. So he has a hard time, and frankly, he's still undecided how he's going to play it, because he doesn't have a problem deceiving enemies, but Frigard is not his enemy. He has no quarrel with her. He has no fight with her. Although he realizes that Ranveig's question is a good one. What if Jarl Bodvar did ask him to lead an attack or to take part in an attack on the village? And he's still discussing those things when he turns around and either realizes or sees. I'm going to use the delve charts for this. Alright, 51. Isolated. 57. Isolated water. Okay. Isolated water. Nothing really came to me of that, but using one of the Ironsworn tips, I'm going to go up or down by 1, and instead of isolate, I'm going to change that to collapsed water, and that does actually come to me as something. So as Knut turns towards the exit of this record chamber, or whatever he wants to call it, this chamber of knowledge, from down the way, there's a a rumbling and a crash that just thunders all the way up and down and back and echoes um, through the room and the tunnels that they're in. And Knut is looking up because it's so loud. He's afraid that the roof is falling in. Uh, and there are a couple streamers of dust and ice do fall from the ceiling from the vibration, but after a couple seconds, everything quiets down, and Ranveig's looking at him as wide-eyed as he's looking back at her, and then looking out in the hallway, and doesn't see anything yet. The Although it does feel like it's maybe a little dimmer, or darker inside. Uh, and Ranveig says, "What was that?" "I don't know. Come on, let's gather our stuff." And Canute knocks. He knocks the. He knocks that stone that says that Odensborg actually owes Springtide these expensive uh, dye flowers. Ranveig narrows her eyes and says, "You should put that back. Right now, Knut Holgersen." "No, I don't think I will. I think maybe you sell the Jarl short. Maybe when he sees this, he will realize that his mistake, and maybe he'll want to do the right thing." "You have no idea. You don't know the man at all. You spent all that time drinking and sitting in his hall eating his food, and you still would think that about him, you fool. You foolish man. If I didn't need you to get home and safely out of this hellhole, this little Niflheim, then I would curse you and leave you here stuck to the wall, to think about your stupidity for the ages to come. Sadly, I don't have that option. Come on, let's go see what that was. Nothing good for us, I'm sure." She glares at him again as Knut takes that stone, tosses it in his little pack, his roll. It's a little heavy, stone that big, kind of heavy, but he's a burly guy, so he can take it. He gets his torch ready and Hilda ready, and starts making his way back. After they go back over past the frozen waterfalls and everything to the chamber that had those beautiful ice structures. The entrance, the cavern, is filled to the top with this ice, with smashed ice, like a cave in, but it looks like one of these structures. Uh, one of the ice formations fell onto and has covered it. And Knut, he's looking, and he's looking to see if there's really a way, because some of the pieces of ice are really big. The it's not like it's not just a stack of ice cubes. It's some pretty big chunks of ice. And he turns to Ranveig and says, "Why do you think that would happen?" "I don't know. Ice cracks and rocks fall. What do you want? Some kind of answer from the spirits? It fell. Now we have to figure out how to get out of here." "Do you think you can open a way through there?" "I don't know. Why don't you ask your spirits and see if they can open a way through there?" "You watch your tongue. Don't mock the spirits or their gods, Knut Holgersen." "Yes, old mother. Let us see." Okay, so he's going to try to gather information again and see if he can spot because he doesn't have any excavation tools, but he's got a spear and a spear haft, and he's got his shield. So he's got his guns. So he may find a place that looks okay. So I'll do a gather information. Okay. So that's a weak hit on gather information. I probably should have used secure an advantage. Let's see. Make preparations. When you assess the situation, make preparations. Um, I'll say because he's trying to find out a weak hit. The information complicates your quest and introduces a new danger. Imagine what you discover and take my momentum. Okay, so I'll take my momentum, and I already kind of know what happens. So Knut looks, and there are a couple of big blocks that he knows he doesn't have a chance of moving really, but there does seem to be along one side with a little bit of chipping and a little bit of shoving and ice picking with with his knife or something. He managed to after about half an hour clear enough so that he can see through the other side and he can eventually squeeze through. And unfortunately, as he's looking, as he clears enough to see his face, to get his face through, there are. He needs to do a face. He's going to do a face danger check. And let's see. It's going to be. I'll say it's, even though it's not his best, it's going to be edge, because as he sticks his face through to look around, he barely sees the spear tip thrusting right at his eyes as he tries to jump back out of the way. Hmm. So a fail on that. Well, that's going to be a costly turn of events. He's going to burn his momentum. He's going to burn his momentum to make it a weak hit. Okay. Momentum. Let me check his assets here real quick. That veteran. Okay, burn momentum. Okay, it's not in combat. Also, once per fight. Okay, so that's just for the fight. Burn. Set his momentum down to 2. And let's see. I think the obvious is that he's gonna get a one point of harm. So he gets the ice. He kind of chips and shovels, and he's leveraging with Hilda his spear, trying to just slide some things around. He's being careful. He doesn't want to break his spear, and especially doesn't want to break Hilda's tip. So he gets enough to where he's kind of peering through this hole, and he holds his torch up a little. Well, no, that part's bright in there, so he doesn't need to hold his torch. In fact, that torch may have already burned out. Did it burn out? Yes. Okay, so that torch burned out, but there was enough light that he was able to dig his hole. He digs his hole. He turns around. He's looking, and he just barely sees the spear and the hands holding it that jab into the hole, and he turns and it comes and it slashes open his cheek, and he curses and leaps back and just jabs a spear back through real quick without without aiming or whatnot. Let's see. I'm going to say that I'll say that'll be a secure an advantage. He's just jabbing the hole back, or jabbing it through the hole. Okay, so he doesn't get anything. He jabs, but maybe he drove the guy back to keep him from stabbing again. But Knut leaps back, and he's got his shield. He gets his shield ready, and he's got his spear. Unfortunately, the hole is not big enough just yet to fit through to go fight, especially since he's kind of bulky. And at this point, he maybe wants to send the Volva through and let her get all stabbed to pieces. But as he can see, there's a large gathering. It's a big gathering of those cannibals. So it looks like the village went and got the rest of them. He slaughtered several in that fight, and the rest ran. But now some of the survivors have come back, and you can tell because some of them have like the filed teeth, and they have the same kind of uh, whitish paint and the thick furs that the other ones were wearing that he fought. And Ranveig looks at him and says, "Well, go kill them. I can't just go kill them. They'd slaughter me as soon as I stuck my head in that hole again. You see this?" "Yes, yes, it looks terrifying. You'll never survive. But what are we going to do then?" "I guess we have to look for another way. Unless you want to dig a hole there, I can try to keep them from stabbing you in the face. And I'm not the best at digging holes. Well, let's go. Let's see if there's some path that we missed." So Canute, keeping ready, follows Ranveig, because he's going to stay in the back in case they decide to break through, because that's possibly what they're going to do when they realize that he's not coming through. But they also may believe that there's no way out for him and want to keep the advantage. So maybe they're, even though they're Skraeling, they're a little too smart to try to force their way inward, knowing that what kind of gore he left back at the village and with all the dead bodies. So they're just going to sit there. They're going to sit there and wait, because they've got time, and they know that Canute and the woman don't, and they're going to go seek another way out. And I'm going to say, I'm going to say at this point, I'm going to say it's unlikely that there's another way out. And some of the chambers did have like little light coming down through, but I kind of picture those as being out of reach, without some kind of Batman like grappling gun. So I'm going to say unlikely. $68. I think unlikely is 76. Yeah, 76 or greater. So there is no way out. They search for a little while, but they can't find it. There's no way out that they can find. He knocks out, he knocks down a bunch of the stones in the records room, looking for maybe some kind of secret escape passage or something, but they don't find anything. I will give them a, oops. I'll give them a secure a gather information roll. Okay, weak hit. So after a while, okay, so that's a plus one momentum for gather information. I'm also trying to work on not talking to myself to kind of, not mutter as much. Um, all right, so he gets his one. He'll get a momentum back for that. But after they look for a long time, they find nothing. They find nothing. Um, so Canute, he's standing guard at the hole. He's keeping back because he doesn't want, they a couple of them probably have bows, or if nothing else, they can certainly throw a hole or throw a spear through the hole if he gets careless. So he looks to the Volva and says, "Well, do you have any sea there you can use? Any magic that can help us? Do the spirits, and I'm not mocking, do the spirits have a way for us out?" So she sits and um, she pulls her stones, and she uh, she takes a dab of his blood and smears it on one of the stones and casts it on the ground. And as she's looking, kind of muttering to herself, let's see, does it? Just for the heck of it, I'll say that it does. That the runes tell her something about the place, and we'll see if it's something that's useful or not. So that's going to be 54. Okay, destroyed 31. Destroyed route. So there is. She, as she is chanting and mumbling and maybe licking a little toadstool out of her medicine bag or whatever, she gets up and moves to a part that they had passed by because it just looked frozen, and finds an area, and it looks like it's a route. It's kind of weird. Sometimes as oracles really just come up with things. If I were a science importance kind of person, I'd say that was the cosmos helping me play my game. But so she goes to this section of the wall that had been behind some thick ice. Well, not necessarily thick, but thick enough that it just looked like it was rock covered. No, it looked like it was ice covered rock, and she kind of holds the torch up to it and starts jabbing at it with her staff, kind of cracking some of the stuff off. Canute comes over. He's keeping an eye on the opening to make sure that the Skrailingar aren't going to try to come through. In fact, while she's doing that, he's kind of piling some of the ice back up. It's not going to stop them, but it will fall over, and he'll hear the ice hitting the ground if they try to sneak through while he's not looking. So he goes back to where she's at, and he starts kind of chipping away at it. He pulls out his sacks, and he's kind of ice picking it gently. Doesn't want to bust his sacks, and trying to open up an area. And he gets enough through, and behind he looks at her with wide eyes, and she looks up at him and says, "Never doubt the spirits, Knut Holgersson. I don't really like it when you say it that way." She shrugs and continues on. There is some kind of collapsed cave there, a collapsed passage. If we are able to get it out, we might be able to escape without having to fight. That's a lot of Skrailing. Yes, it is. All right, so he's going to with constantly keeping an eye back there, he's going to start heaving rocks, trying to be careful not to, cause a big rock slide or anything to come smoosh him. And so I'm going to give him a secure and advantage roll as he's trying to get out there. And I'm going to say, I'm going to give him iron because he's trying to, he's digging, he's working hard, trying to get that opened up. Okay. Alright, so a miss. Pay the price. Let us see what price we shall pay. $65. It is harmful. Alright. So he's pulling some out, and he thinks he's got it. He thinks he's got it. He says, "Hey, look, it's open." And he struggles with a larger rock, trying to pull it out of the way, and he finally gets it and rolls it back, and then he looks up and well, it's not very tall, so he's not really looking up. He's just kind of looking forward. He pulls it, and it releases a bunch of other bigger stones that start rolling over, and they roll over him. Okay, so I'm going to have him take a health hit as the stones kind of crash into his legs and smush his feet as he's trying to get away. And we'll go to endure harm, which is going to be what is it? It's either health or iron, whichever is higher. And at this point, it's it's iron. Okay, well, that was the wrong die. We'll call it as a 9. So that's a weak hit. So no chance to get his health point back. But he carries on. He curses Loki as the god of falling rocks, and Ranveig is kind of chuckling in the background as Knut is grimacing and trying to get this rock off his foot. I think it must have been Loki that told you to dig this tunnel out. It might have been. It might have been. Sometimes you just never know, assuming that the gods are even alive. But the spirits of this land are alive, even if Fenrisulfur ate everyone else in Midgard. Alright, so he's taking his damage, and the spirits did tell her the truth, though. So I'm going to say, even though he failed and he got hurt, it does actually, the large stones rolling out of the way do open into another chamber. And so he takes Ranveig's torch, or takes another one of his torches, and actually he's been down here for a while. Let's see, I'm going to have him. I'm going to try using the check gear because I've never actually used that move before. So I think it's a good time to try to use it. This is to check helpful item with at least +1 supply. All right, so I'm going to see if he actually had, because they have been underground here for a while, and they haven't been using a lot of torches because some of the places were well lit enough, even if they were murky. And so I'm gonna check to see if he actually does have some more, either he or Ranveig because she may have come more prepared. See if he has more torches or a lantern, or a lamp or something like that. Some kind of light source. Okay. Okay, roll plus supply. Currently, supply is 4. Alright, so that's a weak hit. On a weak hit, you have it, but your resources are diminished. +1 momentum and -1 supply. Alright, so he does the torches. They look like he's got them. They're running, maybe running a little low, but he's got enough. So he lights it, and it's very tight through this area, and so he's got his torch out, and so he can't even really use a weapon in his other hand. So he's just got his torch ahead of him, and if he runs into something, he's just gonna have to try to stab it in the face with the torch. They open into a discovery locked in the ice. Now this, because they've already done, they've already found what they want. They've already completed the delve. Normally, it would just be an escape escape the delve or escape the site roll. But because of that failure and because of the fiction, I'm just going to keep, they're going to have to delve a little bit farther. So they find a feature locked in the ice. Let's see what that feature locked in the ice is. Okay, as Knut slides through torch first, he comes to the part where it looks like there's a chamber beyond, and so he carefully, it's dark in this chamber though, but he can see that there's a lot of ice inside. It's kind of catching the reflections of his torchlight on the surface of the ice. As he brings his torch in and looks fully, he sees a person cowering in the corner. Their hair is stringy and long and covering their face, and they're kind of hiding in fear. And Knut pulls himself out so that he can have a better vantage. He pulls himself out, and he pulls his sacks out. So he's got his torch in one hand and his sacks in the other, and he's looking around, and it's a chamber with icy walls. The floor is covered in stinking pelts, but the walls, they go up about 10 feet, and they're completely ice. They're frozen. It would be impossible to scale them without some kind of aid or some kind of help. And so he looks around, and let's see. I'm going to say it's likely that this prisoner is one of the local Skraeling tribesmen. This is a cannibals. The cannibals put people in here until they're ready to eat them. It's like it's their deep freeze basically. Let's see. So it's likely that this is just one of the outside Skraelingi. Likely. Okay, so no, this is somebody else. With the 13, so it's not one of the Skraeling. Is it a? It's a character. Well, not a character per se, but not like a player character. I mean, 83. Oh, he's a hunter. Okay. So this person is a hunter. He's a Yarnari hunter. He's probably from. Is he from Springtide? They're pretty close. I'm going to say it's likely he's from Springtide. Okay, so he's a hunter from Springtide. Who knows how long he's been here? They may have thought that he was. They probably thought he was dead, captured and eaten by the Skraeling. Torkel Ralphson. I'm gonna make him. I'm gonna hit pause while I put him in here because it causes issues. Okay, so I've input. I generated him and put him on the list. Torkel Ralphson. He's insensitive and he's old, so he's an old man. Maybe that's why he got caught. He wasn't not quite as spry as he used to be. And maybe that's not why. Maybe that's why he's not been eaten yet. He's a bit gamey. But uh, he looks at them and he looks at the wall and he says, "Who are you?" "I am Knut. Who are you?" "I am Torkel Ralphson. I'm from Springtide. I was captured some months ago." As they're talking, Ranveig pushes her way out and looks, and she's kind of heard what they're talking about, and when she hears that he's from Springtide, has been captured, she says, yes, Freyga had mentioned that some of her hunters have gone missing recently. Yeah, I went too far south. I thought that I had wounded an elk. I was too slow in catching it. I thought if I could just track it a little bit farther, and that's when the Skrælingr surrounded me. I was so focused on trying to find the next drop of blood in his trail that they surrounded me. And I've been in here, freezing. They certainly don't believe in plumping up their food, that's for sure. But they're all gone. I heard them go running off for some reason. Well, right before this crash that came through the whole place. Do you know how to get out of here? Yes, it's where they brought me in is not far from here at all. Uh, when I came, there were other people in here, but I assume that they're eaten now. You know, they're cannibals. Yes, we saw some of their food preparation. Well, let's go. And so the way out, it's slick. It's not very tall, and Knut asks, "Is there a rope or something that they come to get people out with?" "Yes. If you can push me up there, I think I can pull myself over." "Are you sure, old man? You don't look the strongest." "That's why I need you to push me up instead of me pushing you up. Now come on." He looks at Ranveig. Ranveig shrugs. Um, he doesn't really have a sense this old man's going to betray him because he wants to go home probably. He doesn't want to get eaten. And it makes sense, you know, Ranveig is better to hold him, so he sets himself up, catches the old guy, kind of lifts him and gets him on his shoulders, and the old guy really he's like a bundle of sticks. These cannibals aren't eaten well if they're eating him. Knut thinks, kind of chuckles to himself, and he pushes the old man over Torkel. He pushes Torkel up over the edge, and he hears Torkel kind of scramble off, and he waits for a couple seconds, and Torkel, Torkel, and then Torkel tosses down a rope, a simple rope with knots in it, and Knut straps his stuff, he reluctantly hands the butt of his spear up to Torkel, and he looks up and says, "That was the spear of my father. If you try any tricks with it, it will curse your soul to the day you die." "Yes, yes, I've been cursed plenty before, and if I do anything to you with it, today will be the day I die. Now come on up. We gotta get before whatever they're doing." And so Knut climbs up out, and Ranveig, he looks down. "Ranveig, Just grab on, I'll pull you up. And she hands him up his staff and says, "This staff belonged to my father. Shh, be quiet." And she laughs, grabs onto the rope, and he pulls her up. And they all look around where they're at. And he's obviously Knut didn't explore this part of the cave. It was probably the other direction behind the village, but he has no idea where it's at. But Torkel knows. He says it's this way. It's very quiet. I don't know what happened, what that crash was, but it seems to have all their attention. Come on, let's go. And from here, we're going to do a move to escape the depths. And yeah, we're not gonna try to fight our way out. We're gonna try to he's gonna roll edge. They're trying to get out quick before they come back. So it's gonna be roll plus edge. Okay, on a miss, a dire threat or imposing obstacle stands in your way. Reveal a danger. Okay, so as they come around, the obvious danger is that they've come across a big body of these cannibal Skraeling. But we'll just use the chart. Reveal a danger. 25. Check the theme card. Let's see what the theme card. 25. Denizens leverages the environment. All right, well, that's pretty obvious. So say as they're trying to exit, the denizens, the Skraeling, the cannibals, shove as they're walking. They just, from up above, remember their villages and stuff were built on these kind of old rickety ruins up high. They were like, the village was a whatever they call it, an architectural hazard. And so as they're wandering out, as they're trying to get out, the Knut recognizes that, okay, they are kind of going through that same village. They recognizes, and as they're going, they pass under and they push over a bunch of ice and one of the rickety buildings, like the whole ledge. They just push a bunch of debris on top of them, and he's going to have to do a face danger move to keep from getting smooshed. He's going to try to hide under his shield. He's going to pull. He can't do both, so he's going to try to get Ranveig, kind of tackle her and hold his shield up and see if he can, protect them from the falling thing. But there may be things that are a lot bigger than he realizes at first. Okay, so 4 with a 3 for iron, so that makes that a strong hit. A strong hit, you are successful and take 1 momentum. All right, so he manages to, as he sees the first few things falling nearby, something rings and knocks off of his helmet. He looks up and he sees there's a group of these Skraeling up there, and they're pushing this huge collection, this huge pile of ice and debris down, and he shoves Torkel back out of the way while he puts his arm around Ranveig and holds her and kind of falls down, and the ice and the rocks are hitting his shield and rolling, but he's managed to block enough of the stuff. He pushes it out of the way, and he says, "Come on, let's go." And they just book it. They book it through. Okay, so those people, they were up high, and he manages. They manage to run out. Even old Torvig on his spindly old man legs. They get outside. They get past the edge of the village, because pretty much all the survivors are they're still waiting. They're still playing the waiting game out by the structure. They collapse deeper in the site. So the three of them run out, um, and they don't see anyone else. The other people are not able to catch up with them before they get to the mouth of the site. Uh, Tordek looks at them. There's frozen blood from the first fight at the other end of the village, and Tordek said, "Did you do that? Did you do that?" "That was me. He's quite a warrior, even though he's a little soft upstairs." Canute decides not to reply to that because they're still running. He's got his shield and his spear, and he's ready to bowl through or run through anybody that hops in their way, but they get out, and they see the little campfire that Ranveig had left there before she entered the site that Canute had come across, and they carry on out into the open. It's nice and bright and it's warm. Canute takes a couple minutes once they get a good distance away. They find a spot where he can kind of look over the rocks and make sure they're not being followed by these cannibals. And they don't. They don't come out. So he warms himself up. And remember, I mean, because his clothes are still dry, are still damp. The from his little dump in the lake. So he he's he's happy to be in the sun. So he warms himself in the sun and says, "Well, now we need to get back to Springtide." And they have a hunter who actually knows how to get through. He says, "I can get us back. I know the ways that they don't look." "You got caught." Ranveig shakes her head. "I did, but I was not where I was supposed to be. I know how to get us through the forest and back to Springtide. Don't you worry." And even though the old man, he ends up eating some of their food, because he's been in there starving and is very weak, and they want him to be um, they want him to have the energy to get them out there. So they'll take a quick break, because they've actually, they've been digging. Ranveig's, she's been wandering through there even longer than Canute. Canute was digging up rocks and ice, and his foot hurts. So they stop and take a rest for a little bit, but not too long, because um, Canute says, well, we should eat, but not too long. The Skraeling tribe, the outside Skraeling tribe, may be watching for us. Who knows what they'll do? And so they stop and they eat some of their dried, hardtack equivalent, their old bread or whatever, smoked fish, and carry on it. And true to his word, Tordek gets them back to Springtide. And as they're approaching Springtide, um, the people of the village have gathered and they're watching, and someone calls out, "It's Tordek! They've got old Tordek!" And Fregerd is standing at the front, uh, scratching her chin, looking, and she walks and she slaps old Tordek on the shoulders and says, "It's good to see you again. Go and rest, rest. Find your children, go rest with them, and then you can tell us all about your adventures." And so Tordek nods, and he pats Knut on the shoulder and says, "Thank you very much for rescuing me. If you ever need any help from an old hunter, you let me know." And he staggers off to another part of the village, and he's spent. He's staggering. Someone his else from the village puts an arm under him and helps him out of sight. And Frigerd turns to Ranveig, narrows her eyes, and says, "So, Volva, did you find what you're looking for?" And that's where we'll call it. And I will spend the intervening time trying to decide what Canute what Canute will do, how that will play out. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you like the new intro. It might be a little long for some, and if so, just let me know. But I thought I'd try to freshen up my channel, make it, or the videos, kind of make them look a little more presentable, if you will. But anyway, thanks for sticking through, and happy gaming.